The second time, the palliative care team, very specifically, was really important in my mind was prior to the decision to have Alden get a G tube, and it was a very challenging time from seeing the progression towards failure to thrive, or the regression, I guess, to failure to thrive, and needing to make this decision, wanting to make it relatively quickly so that we didn't create greater challenges. And Pat O'Malley and the team at the pediatric palliative care from MGH created time for us to speak with them very quickly, and helped give us different ways to think about it. And I think it was helpful, one, to make the decision as for how I felt about it individually, but more importantly, how Laura and I were thinking about it together. And we each had a different perspective on it and what it meant in different areas of concern about the decision to go forward with the G-tube. And so I think just an hour with the palliative care team really helped bring us together to the same space to then work together to make that decision.
So I actually contacted the palliative care team like 2 weeks before a doctor first mentioned that Alden might need a G tube, because I could see the writing on the wall. And I contacted them with the intention of having kind of a conversation to empower myself to say, no, I don't want this intervention. And it surprised me how quickly my mind changed. And it wasn't the palliative care, changing my mind for me, but that process of evaluating the reasons for pursuing the G tube, and how those were in line with our goals of care for Alden, which at its heart was, to set him up to reach the best possible potential, and to improve his quality of life during that time. And so we could see his weight flatlining essentially, and he was starting to look pretty skinny. And a couple nights before we went and saw the rehab doctor who really brought the G tube to our onto the table and referred us to the surgeon, Alden was waking up at night and hungry, and so that was an inconvenience for us. And of course, not something that we want for our child. So these, this fear of a surgical intervention were pretty quickly outweighed by the benefit to him long term. And the biggest factor, or one of the bigger factors for me, was I was breastfeeding, and I was breastfeeding 4 or 5 times a day. And, he was a year old, and my kind of general thought was, okay, maybe around a year I'll start to wean him. That's what I did with my first. And there was no out from breastfeeding. And I felt this very strong, correlation to his survival and breastfeeding. And so the idea of weaning felt equivalent to it hurting my child. And so to alleviate that kind of emotional mixture, that was a big influencer. And then, the rehab doc was the thing that sticks with me the most about him introducing the G tube was, food will be fun again. It won't be this forced activity, and it can be playful. And we all know kids learn through play, and it can be a choice. He now chooses to enjoy some, pureed foods when he wants, and he also makes it very clear when he doesn't. And he's getting all the nutrition he needs um, to be strong and um, continue to develop as much as he can.
A big piece too was in terms of the decision making and the resources from the pediatric palliative care team is it's not permanent, right? It's you decide, you still have choices that you get to make in the future, but it is a decision you're making now for what it means today and in the near future, and you get to reevaluate. And that could mean a lot of different things, right? Depending on your child's condition and the impact that it has on your family, and I'm sure countless other things that we will continue to experience as we go forward. But to me, that was a big piece of it, which is you're making a decision now in this moment with the information you have today. It doesn't dictate the future.